All right, today we are taking a journey into the complex and, let's be honest, often misunderstood world of Kabbalah. We're going to be looking at it through the eyes of the philosopher Manly P. Hall and how he saw it explained in a really crucial text from way back in the 17th century. Let's dive in. So right off the bat, you have to understand that this profound mystical tradition, well, it was feared. For a long, long time, the outside world looked at this secret doctrine in Israel and, as Hall points out, basically saw it as something dangerous, maybe even a kind of Satanism. It was wrapped up in all these dark legends. So the question is, how did it ever step into the light? Well, the key, it turns out, was a Christian scholar named Knorr von Rosenroth. His work, Kabbalah Unveiled, was an absolute game changer. It was really the first major attempt to translate these ideas for a Western non-Jewish audience. You can see why Hull calls it the fountainhead. It was the source that opened the floodgates. But that begs a deeper question, right? Why did this secret doctrine even exist in the first place? What was going on that created such a powerful need for a totally new way of thinking about God and the universe? Well, it was born out of a massive spiritual crisis. Here's the core of the problem. You had this idea of a transcendent God, a deity that was way, way up there, so far above the world, so separate, that he almost felt like a distant king, an absolute despot. And you know, for people who are really suffering, that's a tough pill to swallow. What they needed, what they craved, was a sense of immanence, this comforting, powerful belief that God wasn't far away. That deity was here, available, immediate. And as Manly P. Hall puts it, you look at periods like the Roman captivity, it was a complete spiritual disaster. The people had lost their kingdom, they were suffering immensely, and it just felt like God had totally abandoned them. This profound sense that they'd been forgotten, that's what sparked this desperate search for a more personal, a more present connection to the divine. Which leads us to the absolute central puzzle of Kabbalah. If God, the ultimate source, is infinite, perfect, and totally beyond our comprehension, how on earth can a small, finite human being ever get to know it? How do you possibly bridge that gap between the knowable and the unknowable? The answer they came up with is just beautiful. It's this incredibly elegant principle called the law of analogy. The idea is simple, but so powerful. The world we see, the creation all around us, is a direct reflection, a mirror image of the unseen creator. The world down here is harmonized with the world up there. And they had this amazing way of visualizing it. The infinite, unknowable aspect of God, that was the macroprosopos, the great face. Think of it like the entire boundless universe. And the world we see, nature itself, was the microprosopos, the little face. It's as if the creator looks down into the physical world and sees a miniature version of himself reflected back. So here's the kicker. This changes everything. Because if nature is a reflection of the divine, it means that by studying the laws of nature, something we can do, something we can observe, we can actually begin to understand the laws of God. The divine is no longer out of reach. It becomes accessible right here, in the world around us. And the analogy goes even one step deeper, and this is where it gets really personal. The whole universe, that's the macrocosm, the great world. But humanity, you, are the microcosm, the little world. Because if man is made in God's image, then it stands to reason that the human being is the most perfect, most complete miniature of the divine. To truly know yourself is to know your source. Okay, but this brings up another fascinating puzzle. If the divine source is this perfect, single, unified thing, how does it end up creating all this? The incredible messiness and diversity and complexity of our reality. How do you get from one to, well, too many? The mechanism for this is a concept called emanation. The idea is that reality isn't created separately from God. Instead, it radiates out of God. It flows outward in a series of stages, kind of like light and heat radiating from the sun. It's the bridge between that perfect one and the complicated many. And the sun analogy just makes this crystal clear, right? You've got the sun itself, the source. It stays whole, it stays absolute. Then you have its light, that's the emanation, radiating outwards. And then you have creation, let's say the planets, which receive that light. And here's the key. How much light they get what their reality is like, all depends on how close they are to the source. Now, think about what this does to the concept of good and evil. It's radical. In this system, evil isn't some big opposing force fighting against good. No, it's just a lesser degree of good. It's a state of being that's simply farther away from that divine source of light. Just like a shadow isn't a thing, it's just the absence of light. Okay, so we've mapped out this incredible cosmic system. We've gone from a distant God to one that's right here, from the law of analogy to this idea of emanation. But that brings us to the most important question of all. So what? Why does any of this matter? What's the point of knowing it? And here it is. This is the central powerhouse thesis. According to the Zohar, the great book of Kabbalah, this whole thing isn't an intellectual exercise. The purpose of all this knowledge is not just so that you can know something, it's so that you will do something. The purpose is performance. And this idea of performance leads us to the deepest mystery of them all, the Merkaba. It's also called the chariot of righteousness. And it's a symbol, it's a spiritual vehicle that you build, which allows you to ascend, to travel to higher states of being and experience the divine for yourself. But how do you build this chariot? This isn't about wishful thinking. Manly P. Hall is crystal clear here. It's built by, and I quote, the practical, inevitable, factual effort of the individual to grow. It's built through tangible work, real self-discipline, the day-to-day struggle to become a better person. So in the end, this entire vast cosmic system comes down to something incredibly personal and intensely practical. Your spiritual journey, your vehicle to the divine. It's not something you just read about or believe in. It's something you build. And the building materials are your actions, your virtues, the deeds you perform day in and day out. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty challenging thought. Kabbalah isn't just giving us a theory about the universe. It's giving us a blueprint for a project, our project. It suggests that every choice we make, every single action, is another piece of our own spiritual vehicle, which kind of makes you stop and ask yourself, what am I building today?